I'll start with, I've been trying to teach this class at a camp since I started doing Globetrotters, and you guys just never voted for it. So I kept on changing the name until I found one you guys would actually vote for. And Scorpion Deathlock, I gotcha, voted for it. So I'm really going to be teaching this move, which is an exotic move, which I think is funny. And it's an old move. It comes from like judo. It's just Americana or Udagarami, but done from north-south. But some dude won a fight to win and was like, it's the Scorpion Deathlock. So now we call it this fun name. But it's really about is the idea of extrapolating concepts. Because I learned this move in judo, but then I found I was failing at it. But then I used what I learned leg locking people, especially heel hooking people, to make this move better. And so I really want you guys to take that away, the idea of taking concepts from one piece of your jiu-jitsu and bringing them in to make other pieces of your jiu-jitsu strong. So we're going to go a little brief bit of joint lock theory, then dive into like the base form of the move, then we'll dive into variations and setups. So I'm going to use both of these two as my ukes today, so if you guys come on out. I'm going to use Natasha's leg, and I'll use Dennis's arm, because they're about the same length if you compare them. So if Natasha bends her leg like this, as if I'm doing an inside heel hook on her, and if you could just lay down and put your arm in the Americana position, we're going to see this is like one and the same. So spin you around the other way. There we go, almost perfect. So as we can see right here, it's like a nice little design, right? A little Z between their arms and legs. Is that if I'm trying to do an Americana to his shoulder, I want to...
Can you put down your legs, please?
So in the way. All right.
Sorry.
So if you see, what you're trying to do with the Americana is you're trying to put the shoulder in a position where we're lining up the wrist and the shoulder, and then we're eventually going to be trying to tear the shoulder by lifting the elbow or sliding it down, etc. Right? So this is, we all can agree, at least rough strokes, this is how bent arm locks in this position work. In the case of a heel hook, we have Natasha's leg, in which we're lining up the heel with the hip, just like this, and then usually what are we doing? We're picking up the heel. All right, so we're moving a different piece of it, but as we can see, the structure of these two maneuvers is very similar. It's a bent leg lock and a bent joint lock. We have to immobilize the shoulder and move the wrist. We have to immobilize the hip and move the heel. Right? We all kind of generally agree about this. The main difference being that Americanas generally we hit the shoulder, though they can hit the elbow as well. We're usually hitting the shoulder in how we do it in jiu-jitsu. Whereas heel hooks, we very rarely hear about people having their hips torn in a heel hook. It's usually going to be the knee or the ankle, which is mainly because of the fact that in this situation, her shin is not his forearm. His forearm is actually her foot. Because this is the part that ends up in my armpit, and this is the part that I pull. In the case of the Americana, this is the part that's going to end up in my armpit, and this is the part I pull. So his forearm is actually more relatable to her foot than it is to her shin. And then this piece of his arm is relatable to the shin, and then now that makes sense because the knee is what's breaking and the shoulder is what's breaking. So I think this is kind of fun because I can just go back and forth. So you guys can just stay here perfectly and I'll just show you some moves. So I'm going to have Natasha lay down. And so, no, sorry, I'm using her leg. Silly me. As I slide in like this, I'm flaring the knee. We're just going to look at the structure of things as I expose the heel right here. Right, so there's the hip being immobilized, and this is me pinching. I like doing the lazy heel hook, in which I drop her heel into the mat, just for the sake of making my life easier, and as I bridge through the side of her knee, loop, right, to slide underneath, that causes the break. Now I'll just slide right over here. This is so convenient, thank you guys. All right, so now, if you look, the same way I had my wrist on her heel, his elbow becomes the heel. And like, there's many different gripping patterns, but I'm showing the basic one right now. So I'm going to hold this just like so. The main difference being in this situation, his lower body can spin away. In that situation, I have her hips with my legs. In this situation, I'm actually going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to have his hip with my leg. When his leg is flat, it's a little bit harder. I'll slide in. Sorry, whoever told him to put his legs down. All right. I like this pinch. I can put actually either leg to control here or here. There's 4 different variations depending on how I do it. I personally am fond of this one because of how it pins, but also how it transitions into leg locks if he escapes. But if you look, it's the exact same thing. I come in, make a Gable Grip. Look, this is just, actually I'll move my legs so you guys can see. It's just like a heel hook. and you think about heel hook details, right? People are just telling you to bring your shoulder back. I'm going to take this off just that way I don't accidentally cause any damage to Dennis, who's being kind enough to help me out. I'm holding this right here. Watch what happens when I bring my shoulder back. His elbow raises, just by me doing this. In the exact same way, borrow it, Tasha. When I'm just like this, when I bring my shoulder back, on this, it causes tension on her. As you can't see it as well because I don't want to pop Natasha's knee, but I want to be sliding this back and making a lot of tension in her leg, rolling it back. So hopefully you guys see that relation. Now all I want you guys to do is we're going to learn the Scorpion Deathlock because that's the class's namesake. We'll get back to heel hooks in a second. But all I want you to do is just get the general shape of things. We're going to get into north-south. I choose to put my armpit in his armpit just to be kind, and because I've chosen a tank top. And so dropping my armpit hair all over his face, which is kind of be rude. But it is Dennis, so I won't really mind. So I want you to take the bony part of your wrist and put it underneath the elbow and kind of feel this control right here. And we're going to go through, I want you to figure out how to grab first. I'm going to tell you later, but I want you to figure out how you want to grab your hands. You figure that out, and I'm going to show you later. So from right now, just feel this, roll your shoulder back, and when I finish, I'm going to slide my chest lower, which gets me what I want. Actually doing it, I would come in and attach my hands, and I get the shoulder back. So that's all I want you guys to do for now. I haven't told you anything about pinning, setups, none of that. Don't worry about it right now. Partner, don't escape. Be like, I could do this. No one cares. Right? That's not the time for that. We'll do that later. We're just doing the finish. I don't care how you can escape right now. I care about you understanding the concept of the braking mechanic. We'll talk about contingencies and setups and escapes later. Sounds good? All right, we're all going to have rhythm and clap on 2. Ready? 1, 2.
Trying to look at what's happening versus feeling what's happening.
Yeah.
So if you let yourself feel a little bit, you'll figure it out. Okay. Right now, this is the whole purpose.
All right, guys. So now what we're going to do is each piece is going to matter, but the part that I love about this and why I actually end up doing this super regularly at my gym was that I like heel hooking people. Some people frown upon this. And so there's certain places I go, especially when traveling, where if I heel hook people, I get kicked out of the gym or told that, we don't do that. And if that's the case, I still want to practice my mechanics. And I was like, well, how can I teach these people good heel hooking mechanics, even if their coaches are telling them that they're going to get in trouble for doing so? Well, in my opinion, the exact same grip progressions that I use breaking a leg on a heel hook, I can use in this. And they actually relate and are the same degree of loose or tight as I progress through them. So I'm going to show Natasha the classic grip progression. There's lots more grips than this, but I find that this is kind of the classic one that I first learned. And so it's just you have your standard Gable. I do like that we have like Dennis here's a corpse and all the shots. This is perfect. All right, so I personally prefer palm down. What you'll find that the actual grip isn't as important as the angle at which you're pulling it. So the old school guys, if you go and watch like old Pride or Pancrase, like the old school people who hooked, they would literally just take a Gable grip and just go and hope for the best. And the thing about that is that one, it's a little dangerous because Natasha doesn't know what's up. Her leg is injured, but also if she does know what's up, she's just going to keep spinning, and you see the two guys rolling across the mat very often that way. And that's not because those people don't know what they're doing a little bit, but it's also the nature of a Gable grip is it makes you kind of want to pull with your supporting arm, which makes your motion tend to want to come across. You can accomplish everything you accomplish with the better grips with your Gable, but you have to intellectually tell yourself, don't do what I think I should do, pull straight in. You always want to imagine that you're trying to pull things into your body, and then you end up using your hips for the actual finish, not your arms. And so I can accomplish everything I accomplish with my more sophisticated grips with this grip, but I must yank in. You see, this time I'm not pulling across, I'm pulling her Achilles in towards me. With the next one being the very famous one, the butterfly grip. You see this a lot with Gary Tone and Gordon Ryan, they do this a lot. I think Gary does more of the heel cup, but like both those guys, this grip is very famous from the Danaher team. They're very big on this butterfly. But all I'm doing is making the hole smaller, right? This is very wide. I slide into here, it's a little smaller. All right? But in this is less likely to have me pulling across, because I don't have fingers anymore, but I'm still pulling in. So right now, everyone do this to me. You can fiddle with your hands, make a gable grip. Now slide your hands to your wrists, like kind of pulse on pulse. You can grab it if you want, or keep it open. I don't find a big difference between grabbing it and not. And do butterfly grip. There's more grips in the middle. For me though, the next one that I want to go to, just going to go to make it just 3 grips in the sequence, is me the rear naked choke grip. I keep this grip active. I take my other hand and I reach to the other side. And things get very hairy for Natasha very quick. I come into here, and sometimes people do the elbow to elbow, which is good. I find that opening it out closes my elbow and makes it even tighter. So this is going to be our grip progression. But you notice each time the tension of the leg got tighter. Notice I didn't bridge through her knee. I don't need to. I just need my partner to feel the tightness. All right? So now, coming back to our scorpion deathlock. Best name ever for a technique, right? So we're right here. I can do, actually come back, I missed one. Because we start in kind of what happens often, which is a one-arm grip. Maybe Natasha has my hand or something. This is also one of them, right? The one-arms grip, when I just use the false grip on my wrist. This is also a pretty decent grip, but if she has my arm, I'm not going to get it. Obviously, it's better than having one-arm grip. Let's imagine that I could break this right now. I have to do this. 2 hands are better than 1. So that's why we start over here. We have this false grip, right? It could be here or here. This false grip is useful, and this is pretty good. But in reality, imagine that I have his hip. The kind of go-to escape for this is just for Dennis to turn into me and slide his elbow to the mat. And if I'm lazy, that happens. I did all this work to try to get this exotic submission, so I want a highlight reel on Instagram, and he's gone and ruined my day. So I don't want that to happen. So instead of doing that, I want to keep this active, actively pulling in towards my chest, and we're going to go to step number 1. I'm going to go to my gable grip, right? Once again, this is my, sorry about your face. Gable grip right here. This is pretty good and doable, but still not as tight as if I go to wrist to wrist. Still not as good as if I switch. Honestly, I've gotten to the point where I stopped in the progression. I just go straight here. In my experience, once I have this, his elbow is now mine. It's not his anymore. And so you can come back and just practice. Just go back and just feel the difference. Look how happy he is now. I don't know if everyone can see his face. Look at that's the happiest. Happy dance, right? And then, yeah, it's a good point. Let's turn so you get more of Dennis's face. Good point. Yeah. Look that way so they can see the expression change. Excellent. So we have one-armed, happy Dennis. All right? We have Gable, slightly less happy Dennis. Oh yeah, by the way, palm down on this one just for the sake of ease. Palm down on this one on the switch. So here, palm up, switching palm down. Butterfly, slightly less happy. Rear naked choke, least happy Dennis. All right? So I want you to go through those 3 progressions, and then the last icing on the cake is simply this. Shoulder forward. Or even like, regardless of grip, shoulder forward, smiling, less depressed Dennis. Shoulder back, not so happy. Happy, sad. Happy, sad. On virtually any leg lock we do that involves this unit, external shoulder rotation is your friend. It's also this exact same concept, external rotation. External shoulder rotation is how Preet ruins one of my favorite back attacks. It's just in general, I found in jiu-jitsu, the structure of your body, of doing this, just makes everything more unified and strong. And so just know that that concept can be applied everywhere. What I really want you guys to get out of this class is to see that it's all the same. Jiu-jitsu isn't so freaking complicated. It's usually just a small series of moves that we slightly change all over. Get with your partner, have fun, then we're going to come back and actually do people's leg locks. So you can be like, wow, it's the same, and then we'll come back and do more. All right? 1, 2. We are now close. So we've got some good technical direction from our videographer letting us know we should be closer. All right. Little detail from the last thing, and then we're going to talk about actually how the heck you would pull this off in a match. And then what happens as people escape different ways. Detail number 1, I saw about half of you guys doing this, which meant it's my fault. If only one person messes up, I get to mercilessly mock them, and I always hope for this day, but usually 2 people mess up, which means it's my fault. So, all you guys are like laying on people's faces, like really crushing their face, which isn't gonna make them happy, but it's also gonna make it harder to break them. So, I wanna, once I bring my leg over, right, I have the preference of this one, just because I like leg locking people. It's okay to come over here as well. It's okay to do any of these. But when I'm laying on his face, I'm not able to fully bring his arm through his range of motion to actually break it in the end. So I want to make sure one thing, that his hand is up in my armpit, and that my armpit is down by his shoulder. So that when I come over, I take my ribs off his face. So sorry about this, this is going to suck. When I'm on his face, I can't actually tear him very well. Like, I can try, but most of my force is going into crushing his jaw. When I go to the floor, I have all this extra space, but I'm still not going to break him just by doing this with my hands. My arms aren't very strong there. I take my butt and I slide down. Now, this is the regular gable. I'm choosing to do it this way, but in reality, it would be this gable if I'm trying to make it just like a heel hook. And this butterfly, and then the rear naked choke, it's always going to be on the inside arm. The inside arm by his head is the arm that's doing the rear naked choke. Because remember I said on the actual heel hook, the gable, which side you do it on, isn't actually super important. What's important is the fact that we're pulling in towards our chest, not pulling across. So look, when I pull across, nothing happens. So, grip progression, I could be here, go over 1, 2, 3, and then finally 4. Thank you, sir. So, now we're gonna have you guys all do this on the outside heel hook. Is this the best outside heel hook? No. Is this the one that you should always do? No. But I want this to be you understanding how they work. I'm gonna borrow Natasha's leg now. So we'll slide on in. Do I care about what you do with your legs? No. Because like I said, it's an hour class. I'm not gonna fix all your jiu-jitsu or make anything perfect in an hour. But I want you to get this idea. I need to immobilize her hip. Or not really her hip, anything above her knee. I'm just doing a regular cross ashu, my legs cross. You can do this with shallow saddle, do this with honey stick, honey hole, whatever fun name you have for your position, I don't care. What I care about is I'm controlling the hip. I want to make this shape strong, so I'm going to force a boot into her. So I want to make sure that I have a long lever, the same way I have on his arm. I'm going to then make sure my forearm is parallel to her foot. The same way my forearm is parallel to his forearm. I come down, put a bend in her leg. I'm using the floor to cheat. And then all I'm going to do is the exact same thing that we just did, right? This is a regular gable, right? Oh, sorry, kind of hard to see. I'm kind of going backwards, using the floor to cheat doesn't work. Never mind. Come up. I'm going to go on the elbow, just for the sake of you seeing everything. Regular gable, butterfly, rear naked choke. All of them are still here. And then my finish is not ripping my arms. My finish is literally just picking my hips up slightly and doing a little bridge with my hips. So get with your partner and practice that. Question?
Yeah, how would you do that, like just laying on the ground, changing grips?
So once you commit your shoulder to the floor, it's very hard to change grips. On your elbow, it's easy to change grips. In the air, it's easy to change grips. Once I commit my shoulder to the floor, I'm gonna kind of get stuck on this side. So if I had a rear naked choke and I fall on the floor, I'm kind of committed to rear naked choke. If I had a gable, I'm kind of committed to gable. I can slide between gable and butterfly on the floor, but I'm not going to switch to rear naked choke on the floor. So, good point. But generally speaking, once my shoulder touches, I should be in the process of beginning to bridge, and we should either be finishing the match or she's escaping. Either I win or she's out. Usually, once I've committed that far, it shouldn't be a long, arduous battle anymore. So, get with your partner and try that real quick, and then we're going to do the actual setups. I promise you we'd actually do setups. But I want you to see that it should feel really similar. Anybody just completely lost? If you are, you don't have to show the group that you're lost. Just raise your hand afterwards, all right? Ready? 1, 2. Calm down. There we go. Take your shoulders back. Now, if you're in business, now see how this is big and open? I don't like that. Get your crotch closer. Get closer to him. You want this thigh up. Open this thigh this way. You hold this thigh. Yeah. You see everything just got tighter? Now it's. So we're gonna be readjusting the angle because we realize it's hard to see. We lost the dents.
Did you lose it, Dennis?
I'm sick of it.
He's coming. Oh!
I like the hurdle. So this time we're gonna put Dennis right here instead, so you can see more what's going on with my hands, and we'll see if this is a little better. For the setup though, it's actually really good timing for this. I find that I get in north-south quite a bit. When I'm in side control and I'm pummeling, I am a big fan of kind of picking their head up a little bit, just to stop the back roll. Because if anyone's ever rolled with Alexander Neufong, or anyone is acrobatic like him, if his head is on the floor, his legs are gonna fly up. And then escapes happen and things get annoying, or there's a leg over your face, it's just not fun. So I like picking the head up, at least at first, as I make my transition over here. And so I can kind of seat my chest in, and I will almost threaten a north-south choke, if I can, but I can't always get that. But I want to be kind of keeping an upward angle on this and laying on top, whether I'm here or here. Now, as far as getting this, the first time you get this on someone, you can get it. Because if they, actually, I'll show you what goes wrong first. If I ignore the legs and I just lay down and grab this, he's just gonna kind of hitchhiker and walk in a circle. Boom, just like the hitchhiker armbar escape, and now I've just pulled bottom side control. So now that means that I know that I need that leg. But I have to be careful that once he knows that I need to do this, right, I put this leg over, or whichever one you want. So I find that for finishing, this is probably my favorite, just for finishing the shoulder lock. But I have no follow-up after this. Whereas here, let's say I got lazy in my transition, he pulls his elbow down, he's immediately giving me a transition straight into the exact same thing on his leg. Right, so I was here trying to heel hook his elbow. He escapes, I'm gonna heel hook his leg. But the main thing is I like to be here and drive my ribs into the side of his face or neck and be driving my elbow back to kind of get him stuck and framed in. And if he starts running that way, I have to stop him. If I try and chase him, then we just end up doing the Homer Simpson dance forever, and nothing ever happens. So if he's going that way, I have to go the other way. He starts walking that way. Sorry, start walking that way. I walk the other way and kind of cut him off. And so it's my ribs, kind of like a steamroller through the side of his face. And unless he's just massive, that shouldn't matter. Right? There are guys that are just big enough for like your whole body versus their face, they laugh at you. But usually, if you're within 100 pounds of the person or 50 kilos of the person or so, my entire body should be able to beat his chin. If you can't, I've made a mistake even doing this. Like my whole body versus his face. So I'm here. I want him to believe that I want to do other things. Because if he decides he does not want to be submitted by this move, I'm not going to get him. If he just decides, I don't care how you beat me, you're not doing this move to me, I will not get this move. But I will force him to give me something else. Because if he just keeps on running and ignores the fact that I can cross his arms up, I'm going to take side control with crossed arms, which means that I can probably mount him. And this is a very big progression from where I was. I'm ready to go for things like seat belts, arm triangles, all kinds of stuff from here because he's given up that position. So anybody with experience is not going to let me draw their shoulder across their face. They're going to have to resist that, which means his mind is going to be here instead of on his legs. So I'm right here. I'm trying to do this. He has to resist, which allows me to have a backstop to drive my ribs into his face, which brings his leg back. You see that? By pushing into his face, I make his legs come back, at least a little bit. And I can cheat with my hands and grab them, but I don't want to do that, because if I do, I lost the arm. So it's always going to be a battle of which one is he going to let me get. So I have to hold on to this to keep the arm. Try to keep your false grip to keep that arm. And so I did this in the open mat yesterday with a bunch of people, just to make sure that I could actually pull it off. I can't pull this off, should I really be teaching it? Right, so I'm here. I have to kind of trick the person into letting me get here. And now I have what I want. This is going to be a harder thing to do because your inside leg is less dexterous in this position. This will be way easier, but it's also way looser. I don't have the same tightness when I'm here, and I actually can't connect my hands. I have to do it up here. This is why this is my preferred place to go. If I really swing, I can get all the way to here. And if I get to here, this is very, very bad for his shoulder. So all I want you guys to do is just practice that Homer Simpson situation. Like, get your full grip, take their leg, good, have your partner run away. Try and chase them. Maybe you're good enough that you can catch them, but usually I never catch my partner when they're running away. Then, drain your elbow back, walk back, walk back. Really start messing with that elbow, and then catch it. Once I catch this, I can't let him pummel out. I kick the bottom up the other side right here, and then we come in. I almost never do the regular gable now. I'm going straight rear naked choke, almost always. Straight into here. And then I'm gonna get what I want. And so I then leave his face. I'm okay being on his face until it's time to break. All right, guys, play with that. I don't want to teach too much, so we'll stop there. The next step, we'll talk about falling into the legs. If you're fancy, you saw me do it once, you can do it, but I don't want to overload it. All we do, 1, 2.
Walk back, yeah. I'm stuck here, yeah. When I want to do it now.
Okay. Really good questions. This move, like I said, this is not a move you can force. If the person wants to just give you mounts or just give you side control instead, you kind of have to take it. If they just want to run forever, you're not going to force this move. It's the reason why it's one that you don't see that often is because like someone who's really savvy, you probably won't finish this move. But you can use this move to make them do something stupid and give you their arm across their head or give you mount or give you something else. That's really how I use it. I will show how I usually do it. So in general, am I going to land right there? Over here. Yeah, perfect. I'm here. So you're going to have the camera on my butt for a little bit. That's okay. So usually how I do this is I kind of threaten a Darce transition. And if they're savvy, they're going to give me this instead. If they're not savvy, I choke them. So I'll usually set them up so I have a head and arm. So I'll stick my arm in like this around, and I'll start walking around their head. If he does absolutely nothing, he's giving me a Darce. If he's ever been Darce before or has just Jiu-Jitsu sense, like Jiu-Jitsu sense is, oh my gosh, my head and arm are being crammed together, that's probably bad. Right? Probably bad, probably gonna get choked. Maybe I should not let that happen. So Dennis has been doing this a while. He has grappling sense or Jiu-Jitsu sense. As I try and squish his arm to his head, he's gonna start trying to pummel it out. As he pummels it out, ding, 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 thanks. Right? So this is probably the easiest way to catch it. I'm going to go through the grip progression right here because this is like a nice angle for the camera. We didn't do that last time. So before we talked about, I'd come over to right here. Grip, I'll even just do 1 second right here. We have one armed. We have regular gable, butterfly, and rear naked choke. Making sure your rear naked choke always deep. And then we can bring our shoulders back. So next thing, situation where he's running away. Imagine he just keeps running. I'm never going to catch him. Then I have to take advantage of what he's giving me, which is this other arm that I can drag across. As long as he's running with his legs, he can't be actively fighting me with his arm. So once again, if he has to actively fight me with his arm to not get that drag across, he can't run as well, and I'm capturing legs. So now we're going to come right here and imagine that he's really savvy. The second that he feels that I'm taking my focus off holding the arm to go to the leg, he's going to pull his arm out. As he pulls his arm out, I reach up. I always grab the far leg and the near leg. And now I start entering his legs. Rotate, rotate, rotate. And then from right here, there's a million algorithms for breaking through someone with good defense in a cross-hashi position. I will not be teaching you all of them, or really any of them right now. I'm just going to teach you just the idea of what generally leads to bad things and what generally leads to good things. Generally, the more space I have, the more I'm probably going to fail here. if I have a massive gaps and stuff, like there are configurations that are good, but they all have their purpose. So all I would say is try and find a configuration which is flaring this way and closing this way for pinning. For breaking, things will change. If you're more sophisticated, you might have reasons for doing things like this. He might try and pummel for honey stick, and I might be like, haha, I caught you, and do all kinds of fancy things like double backside, which he will be teaching. Come to his class. So we're not gonna worry about that. All I want you to do is to end up here, and then see this idea of striking the heel, catching, and doing the exact same grip progression on this leg. So that's what I want you guys to do. Enter, attack the arm, let them escape, attack the leg. Sounding good? Beautiful. 1, 2. Thank you so much for falling prey to my devious marketing and clicking on Scorpion Deathlock. I hope you enjoyed the class. Like I said, take away this idea. Try and take things that work for you in one piece of your jiu-jitsu and just toss the mechanics somewhere else in your jiu-jitsu. You'll find it's really valuable. I found that using leg lock grips on lots of my arm locks and even chokes has been invaluable in my development. So if you have a mechanic, so for example, if you have a really good guillotine, chances are you might have a pretty good ankle lock because your body's pretty good at this motion. Even though it's supposed to be about your whole body, so is the leg lock. So just find what motions you're good at and try and see if you can't place them somewhere else. My last class was all about identifying shapes. This class is similar, just identifying, oh look, this arm bent looks like that leg bent. So hopefully you enjoyed class. If you have any questions, please come talk to me. And that's about it. Come to his class because it will allow you to finish a really good algorithm out of that cross-hashi position that will take the entry I'm giving you and make it far more useful. So that's all. We're going to do a quick photo and call it a day. Thank you guys.